Hello and welcome to episode 79 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the stream of dreams, the show of shows. We are live over at twitch.tv/GnittWitt. But if that's not enough for you, if you can't get enough, if you're like, please, sir, can I have some more? You can head over to linktree.com/GnittWitt, where you can find links to this very podcast. If for any reason you have come across this podcast but don't know how you got there, you can find links to that, as well as my YouTube, my Twitter, my Twitch, my Instagram, my Blue Sky, my Instagram threads, TikTok. I'm there. I'm around. I get around. I'm a spreader. I spread around. I get around like that Beach Boys song, like the Beach Boys. Yeah, well, since we've alienated all the millennials who listen to this podcast by referencing the Beach Boys, we'll make this one just for the old heads today. We got a great show for you today. You know, we got a whole lot of news as we often do, a lot of PlayStation news. So for PlayStation fans out there, they got a lot to chew on with this episode. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk about the PlayStation State of Play, as well as the announcement of the next PlayStation State of Play. We got some Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League news because that game is out in early access. It is out for real tomorrow, Friday. Today is Thursday, in case you forget. I do the show live on Thursdays. So basically, early access for that game is out now. Main release, full release will be out tomorrow. We also got some Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth news. We got some game industry layoff news. It would not be an episode of the Glitch Report podcast if we didn't talk about the loss of game industry jobs. So we'll talk about that and so much more. But we'll kick things off talking about the PlayStation State of Play. It was about a 40-minute live stream that Sony did about 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. I watched the whole thing. I was kind of running around. You know what I was actually doing? I was eating I don't know if you know, this is a video game podcast, but I don't care. The McRib is back in Canada. So I was fighting a delicate balance of stuffing my face with novelty shaped meat and learning about the latest and greatest from Sony PlayStation all at the same time. And I'll tell you what, didn't get any, sauce or crumbs or anything on the iPad that I was using to watch it. So I would say overall, it's a great success. The McRib anyways, the PlayStation State of Play, we'll talk about it. We'll share my thoughts on it in a moment, but let's actually cover everything that was shown at the State of Play. Why don't we? I am getting this handy dandy list of everything shown at the PlayStation State of Play, courtesy of IGN.com. Death Stranding 2 is officially titled Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. I don't know if this is the beach that makes you old. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Old. It's about a beach that makes you old. It's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. And I feel like my references get better and better the more I need to explain them. So let's just carry on. Gosh, what do I want to say? Death Stranding continues to look fucking weird. It's probably one of the weirdest, like, big budget AAA games out there. There's there's a guy. So I never played Death Stranding 1. Death Stranding 1 seemed like the opposite of my cup of tea. Despite coming from, your friend and mine, Hideo Kojima, Metal Gear Solid legendary, creator and director and all of that stuff. But here we are with Death Stranding 2 in the trailer. This is a long trailer, dude. It's like 9 minutes long. I was like, God, when does this trailer end? There's a part where they go inside somebody's body and they see a baby and the baby looks up and the baby's got like ink, like teardrops coming down their face. And then the baby opens up their mouth and like a drone flies out of the baby's mouth. And that's not even like the weirdest part of the whole trailer. Part where a guy has a chainsaw guitar hybrid gun weapon that shoots lightning. He's like shredding the guitar and like lightning's coming out of the guitar. Norman Reedus, your friend and mine, Norman Reedus, star of the hit TV show Ride with Norman Reedus and The Walking Dead. And who can forget? I mean, who can forget the Boondock Saints? That first Boondock Saints movie is good. That second one is god awful. But the point is, Norman Reedus is back in Death Stranding 2 on the beach playing Sam Porter Bridges. He's facing off against a new group called Drawbridge. If none of this makes any sense to you, that's fine. People who like Death Stranding seem really excited about this, so in that sense, I want to give a thumbs up to everybody who made it through Death Stranding. Good job, you did it. And now you'll be rewarded with more Death Stranding. We also got Elle Fanning, Troy Baker, among others, in the cast as well. Hideo Kojima can't stop. He's working on that horror game for. He's working on OD. So oh god, Hideo Kojima, man, he leaves Konami, and all of a sudden is working on a zillion games at a time. From the looks of it, so Hideo Kojima made Death Stranding. He's currently working on OD, which OD also has a partnership with Jordan Peele. So he finished his Death Stranding. He's working on OD for Microsoft. He's making Death Stranding for PlayStation. And then on top of that, Hideo Kojima also announced that he's making a new action espionage game for PlayStation. My understanding is that there's also going to be a film attached to it from the looks of it. Is there a film? Did I oh, sorry, no. Kojima is also involved in the A24's film adaptation of the original Death Stranding game. So it seems like a couple of things here. So we have Kojima, kind of spreading his wings in terms of working with both PlayStation and Microsoft, getting that money from the biggest players in the gaming industry in terms of consoles anyways. Continuing to make Death Stranding a franchise, despite my confusion for the whole thing, but also going back to his roots, so to speak, with a stealth action espionage game for PlayStation. Is this going to be the Metal Gear Solid killer we've all been waiting for? I don't know. All that we can say is, he's not involved with the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3. He has nothing to do with Konami, who owns Metal Gear Solid. So there's that. But I hope you like a lot of Kojima games, PlayStation, because you're getting more of his games than just about anyone else. They also showed off Team Ninja's Rise of the Ronin. Rise of the Ronin is an open world samurai action game with one-on-one sword combat, a parry system, kind of going for that sort of technical-esque, parry and block and guard and, strike and timing your attacks. And it looked okay. Here's a couple things about the Rise of the Ronin. I think Rise of the Ronin looks good. On paper, I'm like, this looks like a good video game. But it also has like a B game quality to it. And that's no disrespect to my good friends at Team Ninja. There's just something about it where you're like, oh, is this a remake of a PS3 game or something? Like, it kind of has that going for it, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but that's just how I see it. It also shows off, traversing through the open world. You're climbing up buildings, running along rooftops. You have like a grapple to speed up your traversal. Rise of the Ronin looks good. It's also out March 22nd. It's out very, very soon, so we will find out if that game is any good or not. I don't think they said any dates for Death Stranding or the upcoming Kojima action espionage game. Remember when we talked about Until Dawn? Well, we were right on the money, sort of. Until Dawn is getting a remaster, and that's coming to PS5 and PC this year. And, on one hand, more people should play Until Dawn. Until Dawn is a fantastic game. PS4, but here's the thing. Until Dawn's a PS4 game. There's nothing stopping people from putting a PS4 copy of Until Dawn into their PS5. Now, obviously, they're doing other work because it's coming to PC and all this, stuff, but do we really need a remaster of Until Dawn? I'll leave it up for you to decide. They showed off some enhanced graphics and all that stuff. It looks better. Does it look $70 like full price for a new video game better? I don't know. I'll let you decide. It's being handled by Ballistic Moon, so it's not being done by Supermassive Games. We will talk more about Supermassive Games later on in the show. But your mileage may vary on Until Dawn Remaster. You might be like, oh man, I would love to buy that game again. Or maybe you have a PC and you'd love to play it there. You maybe started with the Quarry or you started with the Dark Picture games, but that is what's going on. So obviously Supermassive Games not involved in the project, but it is their game nonetheless. Another game that's out soon that was announced, or at least release date was announced. I don't know if I'd ever heard of this game before, but here we are. Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade, another game with a longer gameplay trailer, about 6 minutes. It's being made by Shift Up and being published by Sony Interactive. It is a action game that takes place in an apocalyptic Earth where a mysterious enemy has forced humans to flee to a colony. The main character, Eve, and her two companions, Adam and Lily, I see what they did there, work to destroy mech-like enemies as well as hostile survivors. Eve will use guns and swords in a stylish action combat. Devil May Cry, original God of War. I mean, obviously Kratos didn't have guns in original God of War. Not that I'm saying Kratos couldn't benefit from some guns. Point is that combo heavy action, stylish action is on full display here with Stellar Blade. Again, coming out very soon, April 26th. They showed off some more Dragon's Dogma. That's out also very soon, March 22nd. I will say, I think it's a really bad idea to have both Rise of the Ronin and Dragon's Dogma come out the same day. Obviously, they're going for different things. However, Dragon's Dogma is an open world action RPG and Rise of the Ronin is an open world action game. So, I mean, I'm not saying they're the same thing, but maybe Dragon's Dogma will be fine because Dragon's Dogma is also coming to PC. And Xbox and things like that as well. It's not just a PlayStation game. They did have third-party non-PlayStation publishers and developers here at the State of Play. I just wanted to confirm. Yeah, it looks like Rise of the Ronin is just PS5 only. So, maybe it'll work out. I do think it's always weird when two similar big games like that are coming out around the same time. Now I'm assuming that everybody's going to get out of the way for this one. If once they announce that once they announce that release date, everyone's going to get the fuck out of the way because they're coming in hot. They got to go fast. Sonic X Shadow Generations has been officially announced by Sega. It is an enhanced remaster of Sonic Generations with new content featuring Shadow the Hedgehog. The teaser trailer showed the same levels we saw in the original Sonic Generations from 2011, as well as new levels where Shadow takes the lead. Now, it's coming to damn near everything, Sonic and Shadow Generations. It's coming to PlayStation 4, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC in autumn of 2024. You can tell I'm excited to play a Sonic the Hedgehog game that I didn't play originally. For my Silent Hill heads out there, I don't think they're actually called Silent Hill heads. But here we are. Silent Hill, what's this game called? Silent Hill The Short Message is out now. You can go play Silent Hill The Short Message. It's out now. Oh, on top of that, it is free. So how about that? Konami showed off and revealed Silent Hill The Short Message, a free-to-play Silent Hill spin-off that is out now. They also showed off more of the Silent Hill 2 remake. However, no release date or even a release window was given. Now, when I say Judas, you probably think Chris Jericho. And I'm sorry that I made you think about Chris Jericho. Perhaps I can undo all the negativity that just flowed into your head, unless of course you think about, you know, some terrific WCW cruiserweight matches, some ECW matches. Perhaps you think about the Festival of Friendship. But I'm not talking Chris Jericho, so I'm sorry I even brought it up. However, I am talking Judas. Judas is the new game from Ken Levine, the creator of BioShock. And it looks a lot like BioShock, a very sci-fi, atmospheric, alternative history type, dystopian, first-person action game. They showed off more of it. I would really recommend, I know I can't really do Judas justice. However, you know, you should really, of the trailers, I mean, obviously, like, you should go watch all these trailers because there's cool stuff. You should watch the Death Stranding 2 trailer if you have 9 minutes. You should watch Rise of Ronin to see if that's your thing. Check out Stellar Blade, check out all this stuff. But I think watch Judas because it does a better job, that trailer does a better job of showing what that game is than I possibly can explain. I'll try to explain this one, though. V Rising is an isometric action strategy, well, it's not really a strategy game, more of a isometric action survival game. And it's been out on PC for some time now. And in V Rising, you play as a vampire who is building theirself a castle and surviving out in the wilderness and fighting monsters and doing all that stuff. Originally launched in early access on PC in 2022, V Rising is now coming to PlayStation 5 in 2024. Check out the trailer for that if you are looking for some more vampire gaming goodness in your life. Though we will have more vampire gaming discussions later on in the show, so stick around for that. Dave the Diver, the surprise hit of 2023, is getting Godzilla content. Godzilla is making their way to Dave the Diver, and Dave the Diver is making his way to PlayStation in May of 2024. They showed off some Zenless Zone Zero, the next Hoyoverse game. That's from the people who make, what the hell are those Hoyoverse games called? Not Grand Blue Fantasy. The Hoyoverse. I don't play a lot of the Hoyoverse games. Oh, Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Of course, those games. I totally forgot that PlayStation makes a VR headset, but they reminded me with some announcements for new VR games. Metro Awakening VR is a prequel to Metro 2033. It will put players in the shoes of a doctor searching the Metro tunnels to find his wife, that is coming to VR later this year. They also showed off Legendary Tales. It is made by Urban Wolf Games. It is a first-person action game. Magic, swords, hammers, bow and arrows, all that stuff. They showed off some more Foam Stars. Foam Stars is out on PlayStation Plus. That's going to be a PlayStation Plus game. I guess next week. It looks like next week is Foam Stars is coming out. That's coming out free to play for everybody who has PlayStation Plus. That is the new, bubble-based multiplayer shooter from Square Enix. They showed off more of that. I guess it's not bubbles, it's foam, but we've talked about how foam consists of bubbles. So I'm not going to get into this conversation about it again. New trailer for that if you want to check that out. But again, that game is coming out next week on PlayStation Plus. And then another game that is launching next week. This is what actually kicked off the PlayStation State of Play. Helldivers 2 is out February 8th. It is the new multiplayer shooter from the original Helldivers folks, as well as the Magicka people. And I got to tell you, Helldivers 2, one of my most anticipated games of 2024. The trailer was about a minute and 12 seconds. It was very, very short. And they showed a lot of the same stuff that we've already seen, which is third-person shooting, these Starship Troopers looking characters shooting big, giant, monstrous alien bugs on a variety of sci-fi planets. And I've seen a lot of that footage already. And I get it, the game's coming out very soon, so I'm not going to, give them too much grief or anything. But they didn't show off, like, how the game works. Like, they didn't show off the menus. They didn't show how you get, like, it's a multiplayer game. Like, did they show what it's like to play that game single player? Is there a story? How do you enter, are you going to play with, if you're going to play with your friends, are you going to jump into, your friends' games? What's the progression like? Are you getting better weapons? Are you getting better armor? Are you getting different looking armor? Like, they showed off how you can customize your soldier and all of that stuff. But they didn't really show off how the progression and the things that put that game together. Maybe they're going to have a better preview or extended gameplay or something later on before the game launches February 8th. I'm really looking forward to it, and I would definitely be willing to pick it up and buy it, assuming reviews and stuff like that are good. We shall see, but I was left a little kind of scratching my head. If the gameplay looked good, I might be willing to buy that game, kind of sight unseen in terms of not waiting for reviews. But they showed off so little of it for a game so close to release. I was very, very confused. They also showed off that in a post-release content update, you will get mechs in Helldivers. So if you want to run around as a big, walking robot, that's coming later on after release. And if you can't get enough PlayStation State of Play, boy, do I have good news for you. Man, oh man, people are just like, fucking yeah, more State of Play. This is the final thing related to State of Play. PlayStation has announced a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth State of Play that is happening February 6th. And that's it. That's all there is to say in terms of what was shown at the PlayStation State of Play. What did I think about PlayStation State of Play? Well, selfishly, I'm a PC gamer, so not a lot of those games are coming to PC, or they might be coming at an unannounced, release date years later, whatever. So in terms of games I personally get the chance to play, there's not much for me to sink my teeth into. In terms of what was shown, I think it was okay. I think it was, it's all right. The thing is that very few of the games shown, if any of them, were, Sony first party developed games. We still don't know what Sucker Punch are working on, right? Are they working on a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima? Do we want to live in a world where Ghost of Tsushima, Rise of the Ronin, and that Assassin's Creed feudal Japan game that's coming out eventually, that's a lot of samurai ninja-esque games, open world action games to exist in a very short period of time. But that's their problem to figure out if that's what they're working on. But we don't know what they're working on. They could be another Infamous game for all we know. They could be rebooting Sly Cooper. I don't know, but they didn't show that stuff, right? Obviously, no talks about what Naughty Dog's working on after they canceled that Last of Us multiplayer game. No announcement on if Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is going to make its way to PC. I'm assuming it will, but they haven't said. They had the big Insomniac hack that exposed a lot of unfinished game data for Wolverine and other stuff. I suspect that, Insomniac is going to be pretty tight-lipped. They're not going to talk about any of the stuff that they're working on until much closer to release. So that kind of, puts a damper on what we can expect from Sony-made developers. No Bungie. Bungie wasn't there. Bungie owned by Sony. They didn't show off any Destiny, or anything like that. So it's a PlayStation State of Play. And the PlayStation part is you can play these games on PlayStation, not that these games are actually made by Sony PlayStation themselves. So take that for what you will. That's why I gotta say that, like, overall, the state of play, again, for PlayStation owners, it's more great games coming to, or potentially great games coming to PlayStation between, this year and next year, so on and so forth. Obviously, a lot of those games are going to be multi-platform games. So that's why I have to give it like it's okay. I thought the state of play was okay. I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. If you really liked it, fantastic. More power to you. There's nothing wrong with that. I would personally be very interested in playing Rise of the Ronin on a PC. I'm looking forward to Helldivers 2 on my PC. So I'm right there with you to some extent when it comes to the state of play. That is it. We're going to move on from the state of play, and we're going to move on to our first break. Stick around. Glitch Report. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Glitch Report. I continue to be your host, GnittWitt, and there continues to be some weird stuff going on with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. We talked about it. That game is out now. The deluxe edition for that game is out now. That was so just to clarify a couple things. The official release date for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is February 2nd. However, if you bought the $100 deluxe edition, you got early access to that game for 72 hours. You got 72 hours of early access. Now, it still was, based on your time zone and all that stuff. So the people who got to play that game first were in New Zealand and Australia, because Warner Brothers owns, Lord of the Rings. So they let the Hobbits play first. Oh, that's just rude, but I said it anyways. So basically, the game launched, went live in early access in New Zealand and Australia. Shortly after that happened, Rocksteady was forced to pull the game offline. And remember, even though you can play it as a single player game, you cannot play it offline. You need constant online connection in order to play Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So, for the folks that paid their hard-earned $100 for the deluxe early access edition in New Zealand and Australia, that game got pulled relatively quickly from being able to play it. And here's what happened. After the reason it was pulled is that players experienced a bug which automatically completed the game after they logged in for the first time, which means the first footage of the game that was coming out for people who owned retail copies was the ending of the motherfucking game. Well, do you end up killing the Justice League or not? I guess you're going to have to go to Twitter or wherever you go to find things and find out for yourself. So 72 hours of early access, you launch the game and it completes upon launching the game. Then they pull that game. They pulled it, right? The downtime lasted more than 6 hours. 72 minus 6, you do the math. That was then followed up by an hour-long maintenance for the game, which happened on Wednesday. What a mess. So, here's what happened. Rocksteady put out a statement it was an in-game message that appeared on when you launched the game, saying, "Thank you for being one of our first console players during early access of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League." This is a message sent to the deluxe edition players. They made good. They made good. You tell me if this is a make good or not. I will leave this up to you if you think that this is worth it. I don't know. Here we go. This is a statement that they put out. Specifically to deluxe edition players. We recognize that you've been patient with us during our initial launch server updates, and we'd like to show our appreciation for your patience with a special gift of 2,000 Luther coins. Thank you again. In Suicide Squad, this is from Video Games Chronicles. As always, shout out to Video Games Chronicles. In Suicide Squad, 2,000 Luther coins can be purchased for about $20 US. Currently, and you use Luther coins to buy character skins and outfits. Currently, standard in-game skins are about 1,000 coins. Deluxe and legendary variants of most skins can be purchased for upwards of 2,000 Luther coins. So basically, you got $20 worth of in-game currency, and the in-game currency is so fucking broken that $20 worth of it gets you one character skin. So I don't know, you spend $100 to play the game early. They cut 7 hours worth of that time from you, especially if you're in New Zealand and Australia, and they reward you with 2,000 Luther coins. To me, it seems fucked. To me, and I'll tell you why the whole thing seems fucked. It's not just that it was broken at launch. It's not just that they gave a really shitty, half-assed make good. It's not even the part where they charged so much money. Well, actually, that part's really bad. The part where they charge people extra money to not play a game upon launch. They also didn't send the game out for review. They didn't send it to reviewers. They didn't send it to IGN. They didn't send it to GameSpot. They didn't send it to anybody. So IGN and GameSpot and Video Games Chronicles and all those, reviewers, they were playing the deluxe edition of the game. But wait, if they had sent out the deluxe edition of the game earlier to reviewers, maybe they wouldn't have needed to pull the game for 7 hours upon launch. Maybe they would have found the bug that auto-completes the game upon logging in for the first time. I don't know. I'm not a video game developer. I don't know. But to me, Warner Brothers is scared of the reaction to this game. I think they're scared of the reviews, for this game. I think they're scared about the reaction people are going to have to this game. However, it being a bad game and it being a non-functioning game are two very, very different things, and they could have prevented the game from being perceived as a non-functioning piece of shit instead of a functioning piece of shit if they had let people play the game prior to the 72-hour early access. Even if that means giving developers a broken, fucked up version of the game, right? Because they could have said, hey, we're giving you the copy of this game early, and your review can't run until, February 2nd. And we promise to have, the bugs and the shit that are broken with the game, fixed, prior to you putting out your review. They could have done a lot of things, but instead they chose the worst possible options every step of the way, charging your most loyal fans extra money for a broken version of the game, giving them a real weak ass make good. I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't have any words, man. Part of me really wants to go play it. Part of me is what does the full version of this game look like compared to what I played? I only put about 2 hours or so into it, during the closed alpha. I didn't have any technical problems with the game during the closed alpha, so I don't know what the fuck happened between then and now. But there is this part of me that's what is the rest of this game? For what it's worth, the reviews are very, very slowly starting to come out. Suicide Squad got a 4 out of 5 by Video Games Chronicles. I don't quite know what to make of it. I think we'll probably do a review roundup for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League next week when more reviews come out. But for right now, it just seems like a real mess. I think they've fixed a lot of the problems now, but what they're left with is a game that I'm not convinced is very good. So we'll see. We'll find out. I will keep you up to date. We'll probably do a review roundup for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League sometime next week. We talked about Pal World. You know, Pal World is the massively popular survival action game, heavily influenced by Pokemon. So much so that people think they're ripping off Pokemon, you know, designs. People think they're stealing Pokemon art assets, that, you know, all of this stuff is going on. That has not changed the fact that the Pal World is incredibly popular. Pocket Pair, the developer, says the game has reached 19 million players across Steam and Game Pass. With 12 million copies sold on Steam. Now, people always say that Game Pass ruins game sales. Why would you go buy a game if you can play it on Game Pass? Especially in a world where you can go buy the game on Steam on your PC or play it for free on Game Pass on PC. But it doesn't seem to matter because the game has been selling like hotcakes across Xbox and PC, you know, courtesy of buying it from the Xbox store or buying it from Steam. The Xbox version peaked at nearly 3 million daily active users. It's fucking crazy. It's just, I've honestly, like, I don't often see games just, you know, come from nowhere like fucking Randy Orton with the RKO and sell these many copies. But I think when I think about it, I think the Pokemon fan base is frustrated at the weak recent releases of Pokemon that have been relatively weak. I also think the survival game genre is still incredibly hot. Minecraft, one of the most popular games out there, you know, and survival games are so popular that even games like Fortnite are trying to implement survival like game modes into their into their titles with stuff like Lego Fortnite, Valheim, you name it. Like, there's a we were just talking about V Rising. V Rising is like a fucking hit a stick with a rock and then build shit game, but with vampires and all that stuff. Like, the survival genre is very, very hot. So I think when you think about the success of Power World, it shouldn't be that surprising. However, the actual number that they've reached, 19 million players, is still quite something. Speaking of recent successes, Like a Dragon, touched for the very first time. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is the series' biggest launch ever on Steam. It's also the best reviewed game in the series to date. How about that? How about that? I'm getting this from Video Games Chronicles. Infinite Wealth was released last week to hugely positive reviews, making it the best received game in series history. That appears to have translated to Steam success, as the game has seen more concurrent players than any other game in the developer's history. According to independent Steam data aggregator Steam Database, which was collated by Reset Era user Mocha Joe, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth ranks highest with over 30,000 peak concurrent users, followed by Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. And the gap is crazy. So what we're talking about is not like sales, but concurrent people playing the game on Steam. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth ranked at number 1, 30,741 concurrent players with their peak. Followed by by Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name with 13,737. A huge gap between Infinite Wealth and The Man Who Erased His Name. Followed by Yakuza. The fucking naming convention of Yakuza games are going to kill me, but here we are. So Number 1, Infinite Wealth. Number 2, The Man Who Erased His Name. Number 3, Yakuza Like a Dragon at 9,535. Really crazy to see, the success of the Yakuza games and Like a Dragon series just grow and grow and grow like crazy. That's one of the reasons why I decided to get into the Yakuza and Like a Dragon series, is I was just like, man, I must be missing out on something, because these games keep coming out and they keep getting better and better, hotter and hotter with every release. So, trust me, I will have more to say about the Yakuza and Like a Dragon series as this podcast continues. And I have some friends who are way into Infinite Wealth, though they say that like maybe there's a little too much to do, at least at the start of the game. It seems like you can get really distracted by a lot of the side content in Infinite Wealth, and then end up in a scenario where you're starting to feel a little burnt out before you've actually engaged with a lot of the story stuff. But that's just from one friend that I was talking to. But regardless, Infinite Wealth is hot, hot, hot. Speaking of Sega, of course, the publisher of Like a Dragon and Yakuza, Sega of America is reportedly laying off more than 10% of its staff. The company is set to lay off 61 employees in March. This was spotted by a Reset Era user. The layoffs were listed on What Layoff, an automated Twitter account which lists verified layoffs as they're announced. The account noted that according to a California WARN notice, Sega of America will lay off 61 employees on March 8th, 2024. California's WARN Act, which stands for Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification, legally requires companies to give 60 days of notice before a mass layoff. Video Games Chronicles has confirmed via the state of California's Employment Development Department that Sega of America has given notice of plans to for two separate layoffs. Given a notice for plans for two separate layoffs of 49 staff and 12 staff, both of which will be made effective on March 8th. According to numerous employer information resources, Sega of America has roughly 440 staff, meaning a layoff of this nature would theoretically affect around 13% of its workforce. Sega has yet to officially announce the layoffs. Video Games Chronicles has contacted the company for a statement. So there you go. Oh, don't worry. There's more video game layoff news to come. Don't you worry. We got more. But I do wish everyone involved at Sega the best of luck, and I hope they land on their feet. Now, these next couple of news stories isn't really video game layoffs, but more video game companies restructuring. Let me explain. Destiny 2's game director has announced that he will be leaving Bungie. Joe Blackburn will be replaced by long-serving Bungie member Tyson Green. The game director of Destiny 2 has announced that he will be leaving Bungie soon. In a thread on Twitter, Joe Blackburn said that he would be departing from the company in February when it performs its, quote, end-to-end playtest on Destiny 2's upcoming expansion, The Final Shape. Describing the playtest as, quote, a ritual, Bungie always performs what involves, quote, multiple days of consecutive internal playtesting, Blackburn said. Blackburn said, heading into this milestone, I've gotten to play hundreds of hours of The Final Shape, and what the world-class talent here at Bungie has created has quickly become of the things I'm most proud of to have worked on throughout my career. This ritual will be especially meaningful to me personally, as it will also serve as the moment to pass the torch of Destiny 2 game director to the next era of leadership as I head on a new adventure outside the walls of Bungie. Blackburn will be replaced by Tyson Green, who joined Bungie as a level designer on its 1999 PC game Myth 2, and went on to work as a designer for most of Bungie's subsequent games, with key roles including multiplayer design lead on Halo 3 and game design lead on Destiny and Destiny 2. Blackburn said, I've followed Bungie for, if you followed Bungie for any length of time, you've heard his, this is Blackburn talking. If you followed Bungie for any length of time, you've heard his name. From Halo PvP to the creation of exotic weapons in Destiny 1, Tyson has been a critical part of Bungie's legacy since Myth 2. And just in case you forgot, the final shape, which was originally supposed to come out in November, Bungie originally delayed the final shape in November, was originally supposed to come out February 27th, is now coming out June 4th. And then the other key founders and, heads of a company leaving is in regards to Supermassive. Supermassive, of course, the Until Dawn, the Quarry, the Dark Pictures. They're also working on the casting of Frank Stone with the folks who do Dead by Daylight. Right, who can forget Dead by Daylight? Not me. Forget all that. Here's what you need to know. Supermassive's co-founders have left the company. Pete and Joe Samuelos have stepped down to, quote, cheer from the sidelines. As spotted by Game Rant, the announcement was made recently on the studio's LinkedIn page with a message paying tribute to co-founders Pete and Joe Samuelos. Quote, after 15 amazing years, we say goodbye to our founders. The message reads, Pete and Joe, thank you for creating Supermassive Games. I'm getting ahead of myself. Pete and Joe, thank you for creating the Supermassive Games story that we will continue to write. Quote, your Supermassive legacy will live on. We all wish you both the very best of luck in your next chapter. Pete Samuels posted his own message explaining that his decision to step down was based on health reasons. Quote, after over 15 years as CEO of Supermassive Games, I have taken the very difficult decision to step down from my role and leave the business. My decision is entirely on health grounds and hasn't been taken lightly. I am, and always will be, proud of what Joel Samuels and I founded all those years ago and filled with admiration for the Supermassive team and the amazing things that they have achieved. I remain excited about their future under a talented new leadership team led by Robert Henderson that will guide Supermassive through the next stage of its incredible journey. As Samuel confirms, Supermassive's new CEO, Robert Henderson, is the former CEO and chairman of Avalanche Studios. In his statement, Henderson said, starting today, it's my privilege and honor to take on the stewardship of Supermassive Games as the CEO. The founders, Pete Samuels and Joe Samuelos, have built an incredible BAFTA-winning studio that has created games which have thrilled and terrified millions of players around the world. Lads, enjoy your next chapter and a well-earned rest. Let's see here. I'm exceptionally fired up about working with the management and all the talented people in the studio to continue developing Supermassive Games. Positioned as one of the leading studios in the world, we're just getting started. And again, just to remind you, Supermassive is currently working on the Dead by Daylight single-player spin-off game, the casting of Frank Stone. They're also working on Little Nightmares 3 and Directive 8020. Directive 8020 is the next game in the Dark Pictures anthology. Season 2 coming soon, y'all. All right, we got through that. Now we got a couple of news stories here around the delisting and removing of a couple of games, specifically on Steam, though my understanding is that this game has also been removed from other places, from what I've seen. 2K classic game Spec Ops: The Line has been removed from Steam. Spec Ops: The Line, if you never played it, is a PS3 360 third-person cover-based military shooter, heavily inspired by the book Heart of Darkness, as well as Apocalypse Now. It is very much one of those types of games. A really underrated game, and I think a really important game. The reason why I say that is because Spec Ops: The Line attempted to depict war in a nightmarish, horrifying, stomach churning presentation that you don't often see in a lot of video games. One of the things that Spec Ops: The Line talks about if you've never had the chance to play it is the use of white phosphorus in war crimes and that sort of thing. And I bring that up because white phosphorus is pretty popular these days. I don't know if you've read the news, but war crimes are in right now. The use of white phosphorus has never been hotter in some parts of the world. And that's not me saying like, oh, Spec Ops: The Line is, bigger than other games or it's bigger than whatever. It was just a game that just said, yo, dog, what if like war and the use of white phosphorus is like, almost gonna say really bad, which is not like accurate at all. It's a game that like has some things to say, and you don't often see that about these types of shooters. Speculation being that the reason the game was removed from sale was because of expired music licenses. The game does feature music from Jimi Hendrix, Mogwai, Deep Purple, Alice in Chains, and Bjork. I totally forgot about that part, but yeah, I get you. Really unfortunate. But also, it's a game where unless you have a 360 or it's backwards compatible, like you're kind of limited on how you can play Spec Ops: The Line because, it was on PS3, doesn't have backwards compatibility support for PS4. Though I should check. Do I own Spec Ops: The Line on my Steam? Please say yes, please say yes, please say yes, please say yes. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, I have Spec Ops: The Line on PC, so I'm good. Maybe we'll play it. I don't know. Maybe we'll do something with Spec Ops: The Line for a video now that I have it, or I remember that I had it. And then the other game that's being removed from Steam is Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition and Devil May Cry 4. I really couldn't tell you why this is happening. It doesn't quite make sense, especially because Capcom has not clarified on why it has been removed, but Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition and Devil May Cry 4 removed from Steam. Okay, we got a lot of news to cover. We're going to take another break and we'll be right back. Stick around. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. Got a lot of news, man. We got a lot of news. So again, with this being an audio podcast and all that stuff, when I talk about like the videos I've seen, the trailers that are out there, if you get the chance, go check out those trailers or just take my word for it. I don't know what to tell you, but this next news story is about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. The Chinese Room, who are the developers of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, have put out an extended gameplay video. It is up on YouTube and again wherever you get your videos. And it's long. It's relatively long. I was quite surprised. It's like half an hour long. And I watched a bit of it here and there. And I gotta be honest, it does not look very good. Now, part of it could be because the game has been in development for a really long time. Maybe I couldn't tell you why it looked like. Here's the thing. I will tell you what it looks like. It looks like a bad Dishonored. Like it looks like one of those bad, and I'm not saying Dishonored is bad or anything like that. I'm saying that like this looks like a bad stealth action game. It doesn't quite look like the RPG that, people really loved in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline. So a couple of things to note, right? Because I think people start to, especially maybe newer listeners of the podcast or whatever, are like, well, what the fuck is, okay, well, what is Vampire the Masquerade? What is all this stuff? Because I go to, Steam or I go to PlayStation Store and I just see a zillion fucking, games. What the hell is going on? So, where do we want to start with this? It's based on tabletop role-playing games. Let's start there. We'll start there. It is based on tabletop role-playing games. It's based on a series, I should say. So Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse and the Oblivion and all that stuff. It's all based on this World of Darkness series, okay? Vampire the Masquerade itself is originally a tabletop role-playing game. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is a classic PC action role-playing game originally put out by Activision, and it was a game that came out in 2004, right? So when we talk about Vampire the Masquerade and all that stuff, really what we're talking is this classic 2004 first-person action RPG game that only exists on PC. Now, when you go to the larger Vampire the Masquerade video game series, right? We have stuff like Swan Song. We have stuff like Blood Hunt. We have stuff like Redemption. We have all these different Vampire the Masquerade games, right? Oh, Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song is a role-playing game that came out in 2022. Oh, Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt is a free-to-play battle royale, all this stuff. The thing you need to know is that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is the main game in the series. That's, when we talk about the history and the legacy of that game, that is what we're talking about, right? No offense to Swan Song or Blood Hunt or Shadows of, New York and all that stuff. Really, we're just talking Bloodlines. So, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is the sequel to Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 20 years later. But the other thing to note is that this game has been in production for a very long time. It's kind of ridiculous. The game was first teased in 2019. Right? Like, this game has been kicking around for a long time. I got this just to provide further context before we go deeper into what they showed. I'm just reading the Wikipedia page here. Let's see here. Seattle-based developer Hardsuit Labs pitched a Bloodline sequel to Paradox Interactive. In 2019, Hardsuit Labs had publicly announced that the game was delayed to 2020, coinciding with the game's second delay in July of 2020. Some of the lead developers of the game were let go from their positions as a joint decision by the leadership at Hardsuit Labs and the publisher Paradox Interactive. Then they lost their creative director in October of 2020. So they just lost their creative directors in July of 2020. Then they lost their creative director again in October of 2020. In February of 2021, Paradox Interactive announced that Hardsuit Labs, the developer, was no longer working on the game. They announced that Paradox Interactive was collaborating with another developer to finish the project. Paradox Interactive had prior to this considered canceling the project altogether, but decided to continue development with a new partner and to retain as much of what had been produced for it until that point. Then, in September of 2023, it was announced at PAX West that the Chinese room had taken over development of the game and the new trailer was shown. And I'm going to tell you right now that when you look at the footage that they show, it looks about as half-baked as the history of the game up until this point. And I'm not trying to be mean. I really want you to go check out this trailer. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But to me, it just looks like a really generic stealth first-person action game. And that's not really what the first Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines game is. That's probably the best way I can describe it, is they put Bloodlines 2 on the box for this game, and it doesn't really look like a sequel to Bloodlines 1. And that's what leaves me so disappointed. I would love a great vampire first-person RPG. Maybe I should actually go back and play Bloodlines 1. I don't know. But to me, this isn't what I would have expected from a game called Bloodlines 2, but it is what I would expect from a game that has been kicking around since 2019, has been rebooted, nearly canceled, and is kind of shuffling out the door from the gameplay footage that the Chinese room has shown. To me, this looks more like a zombie than it does a vampire, because this thing is just, it's not it. It's not it. They should, if they were going to put this game out, they should have actually rebooted it instead of trying to retain what they had, because what Hardsuit Labs was making and what the Chinese room is completing does not look very good. Honestly, this kind of gives me, and I know this is a controversial take, but I think about Duke Nukem Forever. And, Gearbox Interactive being like, all right, we're going to buy Duke Nukem and we're going to finish the game for 3D Realms. And the key word was they were going to finish the game. They weren't going to reboot it. They were going to finish it. So what 3D Realms had made up until that point with Duke Nukem Forever, and what Gearbox ended up putting out, was a fucking turd, because the game shouldn't have seen the light of day in the state that it was in. And if they're going to release a game called Duke Nukem Forever, they should have actually rebooted it versus just finishing what they had. And I worry that we're in a similar situation with Vampire the Masquerade. But tell me I'm wrong. Go watch the gameplay footage of it and tell me what you think. Let's move on, though. PDP has debuted its first look at the new Rock Band / Fortnite Festival. Guitar, controller, plastic instruments are back, y'all. PDP's Riffmaster wireless guitar controller. Here's the cool thing, is that it will have two configurations. One that will be compatible with PlayStation 4 and PS5, and one that will work on Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One. It will also work on PC. The guitar is reportedly supposed to have up to 36 hours of battery life on one charge. The guitar can be folded for easy storage, and it will be compatible with Rock Band 4 and Fortnite Festival. I still think it's kind of sad that we're making plastic instruments for fucking Fortnite of all things, but oh well, what do I know? I'm not going to be an old man yelling at the clouds. Dave the Devs has announced that it is going nonprofit, and has announced the 2024 events as well as fundraising. Now, I might be thinking, Dave the Devs, I thought they were always nonprofit. No, they were not. Because they were getting their money from Microsoft. Microsoft were actually sponsoring Dave the Devs for the longest time. And I'm assuming the reason they have to do this fundraising is because Microsoft is no longer giving them any money. This is what I suspect. But let's dive in a little bit deeper into the history of Dave the Devs. Dave the Devs was established in 2012 by Double Fine and iam8bit. Dave the Devs is a regular showcase designed to promote upcoming indie games at no cost to either developers or players. Previously, its organizers said they achieved this by relying heavily on industry sponsorship, proceeds from game bundles, and largely from donated time. The move to become a nonprofit organization, which separates the showcase from any affiliation with Double Fine owner Microsoft, has seen Dave the Devs launching its first fundraising campaign, which is seeking to raise $500,000 to support its upcoming showcase. Its initial calendar of events for 2024 include the in-person Dave the Devs San Francisco in March, the virtual Day of the Devs Summer Game Fest edition in June, and the hybrid Day of the Devs the Game Awards edition in December. I remember first watching Day of the Devs last year as part of Summer Game Fest. I absolutely loved it. I think what they do is fantastic, showcasing a lot of cool indie games that would frankly not see the light of day at a Summer Games Fest, at an E3, at a Game Awards, at a, maybe at a PAX, but usually with PAX, you have to go to PAX to see it. They don't usually broadcast a lot of the announcements and stuff there. So really interesting to see that, it seems like Microsoft or, whoever, Double Fine themselves have kind of, split off from Day of the Devs. However, it's important to know that, Tim Schafer still looks to be involved with Day of the Devs. Tim Schafer working at Double Fine, owned by Microsoft. So it seems like a lot of the people that were involved are still doing it, but maybe with less funding. Day of the Devs put out a statement that says, quote, we have essentially always run things as a nonprofit, but making it official through a fiscal sponsorship partnered with Legacy Global, it opens us up to better funding opportunities, making our fundraising efforts more transparent and public. It helps our sponsors and audience understand how critical their support truly is. Additionally, this establishes Day of the Devs as being fully independent from other video game related organizations, which clarifies our commitment to being 100% platform agnostic. To put even one great show or showcase like ours comes with significant costs from venue hire, equipment, staffing, video production, etc. And over the past few years, our programs have grown in size and quality. December's Day of the Devs, the Game Awards 2023 edition, showcased 20 upcoming titles, including Braid Anniversary Edition, Lamasoft the Jeff Minster Story, Open Roads, and Thank Goodness You're Here. Thank Goodness You're Here, one of my most anticipated games of 2024. So you know what? I'm not going to speculate too much about what happened with Day of the Devs. I'm still a big fan of what Day of the Devs does. I want to continue to celebrate indie gaming as best as possible. And if their true intentions are to be platform agnostic, to be more transparent about how they make their presentations, where the funding comes from, what the funding is spent on, I think that makes more sense than potentially a scenario where Microsoft or Double Fine or both are cutting, these checks with some expectations on how the money is spent. Two more news stories. I know it's a lot of news, but we'll get through it. More game industry layoffs. And on top of that, a game cancellation. Eidos Montreal were working on a new Deus Ex game that has reportedly been canceled amid layoffs at the studio. Embracer Group, your friends and mine at Embracer Group, who own Eidos Montreal, have confirmed plans to lay off almost 100 employees. According to Bloomberg, the project had been in development for 2 years. Several employees will be laid off as part of the cancellation. Eidos Montreal will instead focus on an original franchise it's being claimed. Swedish gaming giant Embracer Group acquired Eidos Montreal from Square Enix in 2022 alongside Tomb Raider developer Crystal Dynamics. It was reported later that year a new Deus Ex game was in very early development at the Canadian studio. Now, Eidos Montreal, if you don't know Eidos Montreal, they've worked on a couple of games. They worked on Deus Ex Human Revolution in 2011, Deus Ex Mankind Divided in 2016, before moving on to one of 2021's best games, Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know what else to say. Especially about Embracer Group. It's all bad. It's all bad. It's been bad for a very long time and it continues to get worse. However, they've canceled the game. They've laid off 100 people. They've not shut down the studio, which is something that Embracer Group has been quite known for some time. Speaking of studios that Embracer Group completely shut down, remember Volition? Volition, the folks that made Saints Row? Well, a lot of the folks, or I should say some of the folks from Volition have formed a new studio called Shapeshifter Games, including the director of the Saints Row reboot. And on top of that, and I think this is kind of the interesting thing, they're already at work. They're already out there making games. But Shapeshifter Games is the new studio from the folks from Volition. And here's the thing, like, there's a lot of game industry layoffs that are happening and all of that stuff. And the problem with this industry laying off so many people is that means that there are not a lot of jobs from other studios that aren't currently laying off people to hire people that have been laid off. Think about it, right? If the industry is that unhealthy, how can a company like EA or a company like Ubisoft or a company like Square Enix, or, I mean, they just sold off a bunch of their studios, but how do these bigger companies absorb a lot of these people? 2K, Rockstar Games, like, how do they do it? They can't. So if you can secure funding, or if you can, secure some type of project right out of the gate, then you can probably form your own studio like Shapeshifter Games have done. I wish them the best of luck. I really hope that whatever they're currently working on, or whatever project they have lined up, is going to be great for them. That is my worry, is that, like, they start working on this stuff and then, they run out of work, they run out of road with so much potential. But we'll leave you with this kind of the statement that they wrote. Shapeshifter draws upon deep experience in open world and character action games earned while working on some of the industry's most beloved franchises. Game development will be led by studio director Rob Loftus, who was the principal producer on Saints Row. Quote, "It's been 5 months since the closure of Volition, but I'm grateful to post that a group of us have reformed as Shapeshifter Games. The industry climate remains tough, and I know I'm fortunate to reconnect with colleagues and turn the page on a new adventure. I am hopeful for more groups like us and for brighter days ahead." Brian Traficante, I'm probably butchering that name, who was creative director at Volition for decades, remains creative director at Shapeshifter, stating, "I'm excited to share that I'm part of Shapeshifter Games, a new co-dev studio supporting AAA game development," he wrote on his LinkedIn page. "Teaming up with former Volition developers, we're working on an exciting journey." So Shapeshifter Games doing mercenary work from the looks of things. They're going to help other studios co-develop AAA games. And you know what? That's probably the right thing to do, because you're going to be playing with other people's money. As long as you can get work, hey, we're going to help, Ubisoft, finish up this thing, or hey, we're going to help, Microsoft or Sony or whatever, Nintendo. That's probably more stable work, especially if you can do the work for cheaper than the in-house studios. I'm not saying we should just outsource all game development, but especially until they get some proper funding under them, Shapeshifter Games helping support AAA game development probably makes the most sense until they can work on whatever it is that they want to work on, if they have an original game in mind. Finally, quote, "Working with talented, familiar faces fills me with joy." This is from Brian Traficante, who says, "Working with talented, familiar faces fills me with joy. Our shared passion and experience strengthen our partnerships and sparks creativity. I'm grateful for the chance to work with such an inspiring team as we begin this new chapter." People in chat, Yeetus the Fetus, hello. Thank you for stopping by, saying hi. That's going to do it for news. So that's our news story kind of wrapped up there. Let's talk games that I've been playing. I continue to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm having a great time streaming Assassin's Creed Valhalla. If you've missed my Assassin's Creed Valhalla streams, I am live every Wednesday and Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, over at twitch.tv/GnittWitt. If you miss the streams, don't worry. I will be back to put those videos up on YouTube in case you miss it. Each video is about, about 2 hours, 2.5 hours long. I will also mention, just for those that have been watching the streams, those who have been watching the videos, I have also been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla on my own time because I would like to finish that game at some point. Like, I'm only 30 hours in, and if I'm going to get to the 300-hour mark and I've completed damn near everything on that game, I probably will need to set some time aside personally off stream to play it, or maybe we need to start doing longer streams. I don't know. But I agree with Yeetus the Fetus in chat. Valhalla is a ton of fun. I'm having a great time with it. I'm going to keep playing it, and I'm going to keep streaming it. So if you've missed out, head on over to YouTube to watch the archives, or head over to Twitch. And we are live every Wednesday and Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, for more Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The other game that I've been playing is Yakuza Kiwami 1. As we talked about earlier in the podcast today, I am very excited to play more of the Yakuza and Like a Dragon games. Yeetus the Feet is pointing out, I would like to finish that game at some point, saying that finishing Assassin's Creed Valhalla is impossible. I would just like to remind, everybody that I also have the DLC for that game. So we have a long, long ways to go before we finish the main story of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, let alone the DLC. Though, if I can make a foolish, idea, if I can just come up with a bad idea, I would like to finish Assassin's Creed Valhalla by the time that Horizon Forbidden West comes out. Horizon Forbidden West is coming out on PC March 21st. March 21st. So if I can have Assassin's Creed Valhalla done by end of March, yeah, there are a couple of DLCs. People asking in chat. There are 3 DLCs. Yeah, there's like Ragnarok, there's the Ireland one, and then there's the Siege of Paris or something. So we got a long ways to go in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but I'm having a great time. I found myself a little confused by the story in Valhalla initially, until I realized that most of the campaign, the main story, is you forming alliances with these other kingdoms. So it's actually a campaign that seems to mostly consist of smaller stories. Like, we just finished up our story with Oswald. Oswald was trying to become king, or was a king. He also had a bride to be whose family didn't approve because they thought he was a chump. And I got to be honest, I thought Oswald was kind of a chump on top of that. So we finished up that story. We're also slowly dipping our toes into the romance, side quests in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. One of our advisors in our camp has been hitting on us. Maybe we'll get to them. Maybe we won't. We have, God, I'm trying to think of all the things we've done in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We did mushrooms in a field and then followed a mysterious elk around. We did drugs. We went on. There's a lot of, I'll say, for a game about Vikings, there's a lot of psychedelic, hallucinogenic drug trip missions in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm quite surprised how often you are just high as shit and wandering around trying to figure out what the true nature of things are. But I find it a lot of fun. And then, like I said, with the Yakuza Kiwami, I'm going to have that game done for next week, and we're going to do a deep dive into Yakuza Kiwami next week. So we're going to talk all about my time with Yakuza Kiwami, what my thoughts were about the game, how I anticipate the rest of the series going for me, because once I finish Yakuza Kiwami, I will be moving on to Yakuza Kiwami 2. Then I will do 0, and then we'll decide what we want to do. A lot of people telling me, GnittWitt, realistically, you can skip 3, 4, and 5 if you really want. 6 is supposed to be great. Other people telling me, GnittWitt, you can just finish 0 and then go straight to Yakuza Like a Dragon. But honestly, I do like the action gameplay of, the mainline Yakuza games. So I don't know if I want to jump to the more traditional JRPG aspect of the Yakuza games just yet, but we'll see. We shall see. Just a reminder that we're going to do the Suicide Squad review roundup next week. I'm hoping all the reviews are out for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League next week. Helldivers 2 is also out next week, which means that if I get a chance to play it, it won't be for 2 weeks. So just keep that in mind. But in terms of games I've been playing, gonna keep playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Gonna keep playing Yakuza Kiwami. I don't know, and maybe we'll have an idea for next week. I don't know when I'm gonna start Yakuza Kiwami 2. So just, keep that in mind. And for those that are, curious about the Yakuza and the Like a Dragon games, I promise that next week on the podcast, there will be no spoilers for Yakuza Kiwami. So don't worry about me spoiling the story, anything like that. We're going to talk about the story. We will talk about the story. We'll talk about the characters. We'll talk about the game, but I will not spoil any of the main plot in Yakuza Kiwami. So don't worry about that. But like I said, next week, maybe we'll have a shorter news segment so we can dive a little bit deeper into the talks about Yakuza Kiwami 1, but that is going to be the plan. Still having a great time with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so please check out the YouTube videos. Those YouTube videos come out usually a day after the stream has happened. But of course, you can go watch it on Twitch live every Wednesday and Friday. Twitch.tv/GnittWitt, GnittWitt. I think that's going to do for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. Find everything that I do over at my Linktree, linktree.com/GnittWitt. My Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. I am there. I'm really hoping that Helldivers 2 is good. I'm really excited to talk about Yakuza Kiwami next week. I'm very curious to see what the final reviews for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League end up being. And I'm very curious to see what you've been playing. Reach out to me. You can get in touch however you would like on my social medias. Tell me what you've been playing. Are you also getting into the Yakuza games like I am? Let's hear about it. Let's talk about it. Connect with me however you would like. That is going to do it for the podcast. I have been GnittWitt. We will see you next week. But come on back tomorrow for more Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We'll see you then. Take it easy.